If you wake up tomorrow morning and find yourself to be the next president of Nigeria, what will you change?
Set up electricity. The fact that Nigerians do not have a stable electricity is one of the 85% reason why their potentials are not being harnessed. So if I become a president tomorrow morning, best electrical process in place. And in the first 100 days, believe you me, that's the first thing I'll be thinking of doing.
My last podcast I had a politician, more like a political activist on my podcast, and we were able to talk about the political terrain in Nigeria and how it's been fractured by segmented ideologies that is centered or predicated on, losers keep losing, winners keep winning, those who have the money keep winning and keep getting ahead. But today, the good thing is I have a gentleman who studied through 2001 to 2005 in Rome. He studied political philosophy, and that makes him a political philosopher. And I was, after my last podcast, I contacted this young man and I said, "Sir, I want us to engage in this communication because, what kind of political structure each system can work with that can benefit." I mean, because I understand that some systems are democratic and some system parties or uses other forms of government structure. So there's so many questions. And in Nigeria, most especially, it claims to be a democratic country, but it may seem that they are not using the system that is meant for their kind of government. So good. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Do you think the way we embracing technological change now, do you think it's just human proclivity to evolve and become better, or is it because we can't help it?
Necessity brings invention. It's simple. If you feel comfortable where you're sitting now, you're going to feel comfortable until something bites you from there.
Okay, so you don't really think it's human proclivity
to
evolve? It's just like we don't have a choice. We have to adapt to the new reality.
I told a friend of mine last time that by the time we wake up another 10, 15 years, Elon Musk is going to think about the flying car. And right now, they're already producing it.
I mean, there are drones everywhere. Is that a new idea?
No. Drones is different. Those are going to do a different job. I'm talking about a car that you drive. I drove all the way to your postcard, right? Mm-hmm. Next time, in the next 50 years, I might not drive. I might just fly. Right? I told a friend of mine, Chinese colleague of mine, he said, no, the government is going to regulate that. Because by driving, the government makes more income, right? Mm-hmm. So when everybody has access to flying without regulation, it's still going to cost. Everything in human activity causes problems. Yeah, right. Everything practically will be regulated. Do you understand? Yeah. So when innovation comes, there was remember what happened when the 5G was coming, right? Mm-hmm. Remember some understand what 5G was. Yeah. Was talking about, it's a kind of this, it was this
some kind of orchestrated.
But then that was technology moving into another level. Right. In 2013, by the time I was in school sitting, there was no video call for whether WhatsApp or Facebook.
Let's just, I mean, so we can manage our time here. So basically, you trying to say that our new reality that we have concerning technology is not our proclivity to evolve and create new things or to use new stuff. It's just because we don't have a choice. We have to adapt to the new reality.
Yeah, I think we have to adapt to anything that comes.
Okay.
That's why we're economists.
Okay.
Especially this one about politics.
I think we have a lot to talk someday, but today I just want to make sure we are on a page that is politically inclined. Because I had a podcast with someone a few days ago, and I have he answered most of my questions, but I still have some more questions because there's some questions that I couldn't get the real answers, and that's why I want to ask you again. We both know that election is coming up in Nigeria. And we both know that there are some aggressive contestants coming up. Firstly, what is the potential chaos? What is the potential chaos of buying an election form with a party for 100 million naira? Do you think that is some potential disaster on its own?
Yeah, I'm going to come from the perspective of trying to solve a problem and creating one for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You live in a country of over 21, 22 years of democracy. You've studied the democratic trend. Mm-hmm. You understand that I want to solve a problem by removing a party called PDP that was making money out of the country. Then you came in as an APC and you said you're going to do this. You've lived for 7 years doing this job. Mm-hmm. And now, I would say you've been overtaken by the same issue you were fighting PDP for. Mm-hmm. If you sell a form for 100 million, trying to get someone into a presidential office, you're telling the person, like, you're drawing the line that you want the rich people to do this. That is one. Mm-hmm. Two, you came out as a political party that wants to fight corruption, and you understand that one of the biggest problems Nigeria has as a corrupt country, because the UK Prime Minister called us fantastically corrupt, right? Mm-hmm. Is about looting. Mm-hmm. But you created the avenue whereby you want people who can afford this kind of amount to come and run for presidency. Not only that you did that, you first of all collected these monies, over 23 people coming out as aspirants. Then you now start screaming them out, right? And then you already paid the money. And then you remove them and they've lost their 100. Not that you're refunding them a percentage. I remember I would do something here. If I buy something from you and it didn't work for me, you give me back a percentage. Something like that. Or you pay for school, those who come and say, oh, if you pay for this but you don't come, they're going to pay you back 60 or 70%. Something like that. You can pay these guys back. If not, most Nigerian politicians are not read. Many of them are not well exposed. Many of them are still crew. So if you take 100 million out of them and you just wave them out, you already created another means for someone to find another means, no matter what it is, to get back their money. So you're creating more chaos for yourself.
And recruitment jobs. What they will eat? Cassava, àgbàdo, corn, and the morning, yam in the afternoon. It's growing here.
So that's why I think right now the BC is trying as much as possible to balance an equation. Now another conflict has come. The president said he wants a successor. He wants to take up the successor. So you gather 123 people together. You allow them to pay to come for a party. Then you come back and say you want a successor. These are things I think having rational human beings should know where they're going, from where they're coming from, right? If we won this, just like in 2019, when they before 2019, right? They brought up Buhari, said everybody sit down, only Buhari will have. And that was fine, because that's what they wanted. If Buhari wanted the same thing, what a BC should have done is not to call anybody to run, just point the person you want to go for. And that will solve the problem. But because there is this cunning way of taking money from people and telling them you can't do anything, when you do that, you make them fall back to plan against you and get their money back. So we have chaos coming up.
Because when you you're
gonna find a way to make more money than the 70,000.
When you do make all the sacrifice to get to such position, you want to make your money back. Some people, I believe, they take loans for this thing. take loans, they borrow, and lend, to make all this money.
People also have it.
Yeah. But you know, 100 million naira is not much some kind of money you blow up and then you feel good about it. No. So that's what I think. It's disturbing how people have to pay so much to sell. Don't you think so?
Because service doesn't have to do or make you pay that much.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I keep saying that when I look at the Nigerian terrain, I listened to one of the in Arise News. I listened to one of the guys analyzing what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have a lot of kidnapping going on now. A lot of people picking people up for money.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have been caught. Some of them have been questioned. One of the things they say that we are in group of network. When we get this money, there are people who take cuts.
Mm-hmm.
The last person that was, as of last Sunday, one of the prelates of Methodist who was kidnapped and leaked, was saying that the military knew those who kidnapped them. That is still, the military are denying it, right? Because it said the guy they saw that took the money, there was a statement from the military who was at the
in Zamfara State, we know these bandits, we know their parents, we know their grandparents. We know how to get across to them. The governor once invited one of the notorious bandits called Turji to the governor, to the government house. He gave him money, he gave him vehicle. What was he doing? Empowering the bandit even more.
There are certain things you don't want to be continuing to happen in your state or in your country or Nigeria as a state. What do? You design a complete eradication process structure. You design that and you carry it to the letter. What that means is the boss sitting right there telling you what to do, telling you about who was, might be the person who is orchestrating the worst thing. What movies? We don't have sex. What that means is that if you make a rule to eradicate a problem, it doesn't matter who is going to know. Do you understand?
Mm.
So what will do to you is when you follow a process, you want to eradicate anything like kidnapping. You're not going to create a situation where people will have to be grumbling for another mistake you made. Because the guy that talked in our writing said that these guys that have been removed again, because APC have removed 30 people or 10 people, said they don't qualify. Right? But you took their form, they filled the form. That is a criteria, that was a requirement before someone can get to this point. As a system analyst, and I'm looking at it like, why would I build a system that is wobbling? Do you understand? If I give you a form to fill,
you take the money, but yes,
you take the money, then you come back and tell me I don't qualify. I shouldn't fill a form to submit to have paid if I wasn't qualified in the first place. Do you understand? So we keep thinking it's politics, it's Nigerian. That was not politics, that was theft. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anybody can reason however they think, because Nigeria does not have an ideological political structure. None of them. That is why even when Atiku won the PDP ticket, he made a statement. Right now, we are going to work hard to see that all our members who have left us in the other party should come back and we'll work together. Are you kidding me? You just won a ticket. You are now telling APC people that if we win, you people should come back here and join us in the PDP that you think you've refined to come and do something that the APC has spoiled. You took the spoilers of what you want to correct and put them back in your structure to move forward. Are you kidding me? I listen to them, I'm like, what is wrong with us? That is why the moment PDP wins, APC all will move back. We still have APC PDP party. If APC wins, PDP will move and join them and say, we are not winning. So the reason is because I didn't get what I was looking for in PDP. I'm moving to APC. You see most of them moving back. That is why at this point, the citizens of Nigeria are looking for the third force. And thank God, Labour Party or AAC, most of them, is Showere Party, most of them might have to create a force. We are looking at that. We are tired of APC, PDP shenanigans. I can tell you, I follow every day. Because of my concern, I follow every day what these guys say from their mouth. And I try to analyze it from the common sense perspective. Right? So, coming back to this 100 million thing. If you let these 10 people go after collecting their money, no way to pay them back. Now they can come down together, and you say you have you are not a partisan, you don't play partisan politics, or you don't have a way, you don't respect your party, you are not supposed to fight against or work against your party. Someone is going to work against you if you take that money away from them and don't give them a reason to be happy, right? Or settle them. That is why also you see incompetence in the ministers. Because what would they do is try to give these guys political positions. Okay? You give someone that does not have anything to do about the wharf, you go and make him the chairman of the manager of immigration. Someone that has nothing to do about football, you make him the minister of football, of soccer. Right? So the person that is in charge of, I remember when that argument came, who had nothing to do with health, education. You make him minister of education, then you put someone that you think around him and think to work with him. You use incompetency to compensate these people. Try to fix them somewhere that they will do what? You put their money. So we are back to the same circle. Do you understand? Don't worry, when we win, we settle you. Don't worry, don't be angry. We want to use this money to fight, to do election. Don't worry, we'll make you manager. So no matter how you try to be competent, you've already found out who they were going to keep there. So money will go back to these guys' pockets, no matter what. Do you understand? So we are back to square one. So Nigerians will be deceiving themselves heavily. We're already in a very wicked depth right now of what do you call, how do the comedians say, our future and the lack of our grandchildren have been sold out. So we're already in trouble, and they're going to create more.
But that leads to this question. And I asked this question the last time I had somebody. We're already in a very massive debt that getting out of it is a miracle. Is the situation of Nigeria now is it redeeming?
Yeah. Listen.
Okay, we can talk about this the whole day. But I want us to be very, very strategic in our conversation, and I want us to manage our points and manage our segments so that we can start bringing out suggestions that is actually going to work. Nigeria as a country is already in debt, massive debt. I don't have the actual figure of the debt number. I know we're in massive debt. And now we are looking at redeeming ourselves. How can we offset the debts? Because the only way we can start is constructing ourselves is getting our hands on those people we are enslaved. And a debtor is a slave. So we are already slaves because we owe someone else so much that we cannot pay back. So the question is, how can we redeem ourselves from these debts?
Okay, if you want to solve a problem, the first step to solve a problem is to identify the problem. When you identify the problem, then you now begin to look at the different ways, areas, scenarios, structures you can put up to solve this problem, right? Now, it is different knowing you are in debt and you want to come out of it. And also, it's also a different thing knowing that you are in debt but you want to go back more in. Because if you want to solve Nigerian problem of debt, I watch PW talk about it, right?
Employment and robust your economy, the more you can earn from tax. You cannot tax unemployed people. If I cannot go to your village and tax people who are unemployed, you have 98 million people living under poverty before the COVID situation. Now you're going to have over 100 living under poverty. You're not going to tax them.
I watch Showore, these are brilliant guys, talk about it. I watch Dele Momondi talk about it, right? These guys have, or if you watch Mogalo, talk about these things, right? We have already been talking about it. These guys know exactly how to solve the problem. The problem is, the guy in charge doesn't want to solve the problem. And the international community are not going to stop you from borrowing, even as much as that point they will tell you. The truth is, if I am owing a student loan of 200 million, right, dollars, I have my certificate, that's what it means, right? Because I went to school, and then I have a student loan. If I am looking for a job, and that job is going to pay me $500,000 a year, right? I have my debts focused. If my challenge is to make sure I reduce that debt within the space of 3 years, what will I do? I cut down the things I'm going to be expenditure, right? Cut it down. Take the money, so I say 30%, 20% of my income is going to go to this debt. And what do I do more? I am not going to be going to Toyota or going to buy big cars, right? I'm not going to go to California and buy one of the biggest houses and be paying mortgage. Because I have been able to structurize myself and say, this is what I want to do, this is my aim. That is the problem of solving Nigeria's economic debt. Because if they say we want to do this, they develop what we call economic strategy. I remember the last time the government called some people and said they are going to solve economic problem. Align them out, give out their names, their qualifications. Ask me where those people are now. Ask me the theory they ever propounded. No. It just died a natural death. You are a government that runs over your 98% of your GDP to service debt. I understood what it means to service debt when I was owning a company here in the United States. Right?
So what is it?
The truth is, I didn't even know they were not taking the money. Do you understand? They were supposed to take $600 from my account every month from June last year. For some reason, they told me 3 to 4 months. These were the costs I did with Microsoft. Right? Microsoft paid for it. Okay? Now they said, we're going to pay for this because you do this course with us, and then you can start paying when you're done. I said, okay. I signed the agreement. I gave it to them. I started the program. Did the program. They said, we'll give you 6 months. After 6 months, you can start paying. My target then was to get into Microsoft. But the guys I was working with said, when you do this, but you still have to wait and maybe apply. That's not automatic getting into Microsoft. I said, okay, at least I have something that is bringing me closer to what I want to do, right? Now they said, if we get you in, we'll give you 6 months. But they didn't get me in, I got another job. So I never knew when they tried to make a payment and it never went through. The truth is, I relaxed. I felt like they've not started charging, but I never knew. They started counting me since June. When it came, they called me and said, oh, Reggie, you're supposed to start remitting your payment. This is, but it didn't happen. I said, why? You guys never sent me an email. I said, no, we had an agreement with you. Check your mail. They sent me this, sent me that. I said, wow. Really? I said, well, that's not a problem. Now you have $7,000, this, right? But you don't need to worry. You can start paying it in 6 months. But for now, you start paying $150 a month for 5 months. Wow. I said, why? He said, you need to put it up because there are some accrued interest based on the fact you didn't pay for 6 months. This country is such a way that they are structured in such a way that you need to be careful. Every dime you try to do, right?
You try to afford.
You have to be very careful. Yeah. I couldn't argue because it was the truth. I started paying $150 every month for nothing.
That is why someone said that it's better to go face a drug or buy today, because if it goes up, it's going to take you out.
I am telling you. I said, $7,000? Oh my God. I said, okay. I will do that. I agreed, and I have to. When every month I pay $150, I told myself. I asked one of the guys when I spoke, I said, is this like servicing this debt? He said, yeah, you're going to pay this for 6 months, for 4 months, then the 5th month, then we can kickstart your debt. That's the loudest. I said, this is exactly what Nigeria is doing. Like Nigeria is paying for the money they borrowed with 98% of what you have generated. You still owe you.
Yeah, you still owe.
You still owe you.
So you mean the debt Nigeria is paying up, they're not really paying up. You're just paying a
penalty. Thank you. They're paying I'm owing you $10 today. Can you just hold these $2? I will pay you the $10 later.
Right.
That is what they're doing. And that is the drastic. Now, coming back to solving this problem, it is just, I know these people. I sit like this, I look at Nigeria. People outside of Nigeria know that these are one of the most wonderful people in the world. doing the most wonderful thing ever in all ramifications, in all fields of life. If you give that debt, how much is it now? Give that debt 4 years of a good government.
Out of this 11.4 trillion expenditure expected this year, the states are 5.4. And I believe that this 5.4, we can save at least 1 trillion. At least they won't borrow it because it's going to be borrowed. We can save 1 trillion. And people will say to me, how are you going to save it? How? One, I always say it. Out of this so-called 5.4 trillion,
set up stable electricity. Set up stable road network.
So how will this all offset the debt?
That's what I'm saying. Set up, there is something to be said at one of his interviews. He said, if you create more jobs for these guys by setting electricity and correcting this thing, people will pay more tax. You as a government will make more money.
So you mean increase the GDP?
If you increase your GDP, you make more money.
Right.
When you make more money, you sort your issues out. That is, I don't want to go down to that route because this is a situation of we don't want to do this.
So that means we have less production, more expenditure.
Right now, that is what it is. So if you're asking me about we sorting out Nigeria, it's the simplest thing to do. Just say you want to do it. Then you map out the strategies to do it. Then you do it. Not, don't worry, we'll do it. But right now, this is our turn. Are we just going to stop all these things and allow you guys? Now, let's take our own and share. Then you go back and borrow $500 billion. You come back, you want to use it for railway. You share the money. Then you build a little railway to somewhere that has nothing to do with Nigeria. You move it all the way to Nigeria. But the rest of the Nigerian people, how many people? 200. Do you know how many people living in Lagos? They say 20 million. That's the lie. When was the last time Lagos had a population census? I think almost everybody in Nigeria is living in Lagos.
Yeah.
There is overpopulation right now in Lagos. That is why thank you. It's tripling. Whatever they think they know now is double. Because every other country, not Nigeria, every other person can call Ghana, Niger, all our neighbors, they are in Lagos. Do you understand? So when you look at that particular thing, you want to create certain things that will generate. It is the population that makes the market. That's why everybody in the world is making Nigeria their market, but just because of security, they're not paying attention. So they try to exonerate it, right? The population is the money. Why do people come to Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and they have 100,000 followers and they make money? The population is the money. Do you understand? The population is the market. The population is the economy. If somebody is, how many people are in Rwanda? 12 million people. But the little they have, they are doing well with it. We are, for goodness sake, I studied Nigerian population from 2010 to now. What you see is an increase in 5 million, 10 million. We are 180 people. We are now 185 million. We are now 190 million people. Keep moving until we get to 200 million. Nobody did a particular sense concept. What they did was data collected from consumer reports. Do you understand? Come up now that you want to do a census because confusion. Because you can't. You know why? This is a country that have not decided that they want to stay. They want to solve a problem. The moment you decide to solve a problem, somebody somewhere do not want to solve that problem. Because that problem, if you solve it, you have created a problem for them. So if you create a problem for them, you are going to have a clash back. That is what is happening.
No, just to bring you back to providing electricity. If you provide electricity and you increase the GDP because there's more production, how will that work? Now, we understand then we start selling more than we are spending, or let's just say our selling will be directly proportional to our expenditures. That's fine. So how can that affect our debt? How can we, are you trying to say then the taxes should increase?
Well, how many people are paying taxes now into the federal government? How many? So a lot of people are not paying. Even the structure they have is not working for taxes.
Okay, so that creates another argument that, okay, if we even have people who are not paying taxes, then increasing production may not be the optimal case.
Do you want to solve the problem? If you want to solve the problem, you will find a way. Do you understand? The problem is, making rules for some people. Do you understand? Even in the United States here, you still have people still dodge taxes, right? But is it as open and ordinary as it's supposed to be over there? No.
Yeah, so that's what
some people are punished.
That's what I'm trying to bring an argument. That even before you think of increasing production, there is still something on the surface, which means you've not even been able to track the people that are producing yet. And you want to increase production. How does that work?
First of all, what you're going to do is, what we have to do is, we're looking at what are the five, there are three things I think when Nigeria wants to work, they have to look into it. Some videos going around about violence and about insecurity is because of two things: poverty and education. Education streams into poverty, poverty streams into education, right? Now, if you come to a place like Nigeria, you talk about education. We're not talking about going to school. Because people remove education, or rather claim education to going to classes, going and sitting having a degree. It's about educating yourself. Structured education is school, getting a certificate, a master's, which is good, right? But in education, in this sense, educating expanding the horizon of your people. That horizon has to, what do they know towards what they don't know? One of the second modern philosophers, Immanuel Kant, he says, our knowledge is limited to the horizon of our own perception. What Hamas is trying to say is, man, if I don't know how this is made, remember when in the olden days when they see needle, they wonder what it is. They show that they can see themselves in something. That is where their perspective ends. When they see cars, they wonder how this thing moves. Those in those years didn't have anything past the limit of their own environment. So Kamas is trying to let you know that what we know, if we do not work hard to expand it, go beyond ourselves, we can only have a little knowledge. That's why they always tell you, fear the man who reads only one book. Do you understand? Or fear the one who has only one ideology and does not bring in the rest of the person's ideology. One of the English modern philosopher, John Locke, said, the best society you can create for peace is the one who allows social tolerance. Go and read John Locke's social contract. Social tolerance. Knowing that you know something, I know something, I want to know your own, and why you know it. Not this thing I know is where it is, nothing more. That's a closed mindset. That is one of the things killing Nigeria today. When you close your mindset. So, if we come to the point that we want to solve a problem of anything at all, human beings are so vibrant. And we have those people in Nigeria, right? Create electricity. The first thing. For goodness sake, God said, let there be light. Before he started anything else.
Understand the benefit of having constant electricity.
It is, can I even have to wait and understand this?
It
is so important.
You and I were in the United States. Okay, listen.
It is so important.
Listen, you and I
cannot
were in the United States. We use electricity. And sometimes when you have something, you don't really know what it means. So we have a lot of people in the United States watching this right now. And they can be, I'm telling you, some people can't tell the use of electricity because it's always been here. So can you just tell them what are the benefits of having constant electricity?
With the help of constant electricity, I can sit in my house without bothering about my internet or my light going off, and I can study till almost 2 a.m.
Okay.
Right? Something I want to do. If I am working on something on my application, I'm building something, or I'm I'm doing what we call backlog, right? In my office. I give myself 2 o'clock, 11 o'clock to 3 a.m. I'll be sleeping by 3 a.m. I'll concentrate on that and I finish at 3 a.m. I tell myself I'll wake up by 9 a.m. to continue. By the time I'm waking up by 9, I'm not going to wake up and say, there's no light, I can't do this. Or, where is that generator? Where I'm on my generator, there's no fuel. Do you understand? Those things condition your mind and break you down. Do you know, apart from those who do not have time, right, to iron their clothes when they're going to work, do you know that most people in Nigeria, of course I was part of this, once they have light comes, bam, like early in the morning, 2 a.m., they wake up and start ironing all their clothes. Because the light might go off again before 6 a.m. Because they don't want to use, the generator cannot carry the, do you know when we are using charcoal iron?
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much. Whoever thought about that? Charcoal iron.
I'm going to display that on my screen as well. People need to see that.
Yeah.
Because
In the secondary school, for goodness sake, these kids that are growing up now never knew anything. There is a child, right, when you talk about the light can go off and they say, how, why?
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, when we had the electricity problem in my house, right? We had 3 little kids, right? 8 years, 7 years, 14 years. The moment that light got bad, my sister called social workers. The first thing they said was to take those kids to a hotel. They cannot stay in that light more than 2 hours without electricity. Wow. Remember that the United States has a way of freezing on their own air, right? Mm-hmm. Can't allow any air to come in, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They said, take those kids to a hotel. They will stay there till you fix everything. Mm-hmm. Why? And my sister said, the moment that light goes up, the little girl started having a seizure, staying under the heat. We are Nigerian, we remove shell, nothing there. Do you understand? Right. Because our 2 hours light, 3 hours light. I stay 1 month, I'm not still light. Do you understand? So that's a custom in our head. Right. So when these things come, for goodness sake, the Nigerian guy now, who is an electrician, right? Mm-hmm. Knows that he doesn't have to suffer. Forget about it. People say, I live in Jota, we have 24 hours light. For good, ask them in the next 1 year, it has gone down. It conditions you to plan your life. You plan what to do because electricity is there for you to do it. It is there for you to know the voltage of what you're going to handle. Mm-hmm. The moment that thing comes, a lot of people are producers.
Has now thrown a spanner in the works because it's increased the cost of doing business in the city. It's pushing some people back into poverty, and it's just affecting the general economic life in the city.
There are production mindset in their head. They will think of what to do. Mm-hmm. Now you think about the nearest market. In social studies, they tell you that in business, your nearest market is your first site of business, right? If I am producing this shoe, who is my nearest market? Who is my next customer, right? Mm-hmm. Then you begin to think about those. They want to go from one place to the other. Movement of goods from one place to the other. That's road. Mm-hmm. If you make a good road, I want to remember the politician that said that about the Southeast and Lagos. And I told him, I was listening to him, I just said, you are wasting your time. Nigerian government are so intelligent that this thing you're saying now will never work. Because they know it is for good and it will never go. They said, how can somebody go and build a railway to Niger when it has not even gone all around? Okay, it was the moment. Yeah, it was because one of the things was saying about the English, right? It was the moment, yeah. He said, how can you go and build a railway outside of Nigeria when it has not even gone around the whole of this thing? Like in the Southeast, we were dramatically removed from that map, right? This is very clear to you. These are people who are into production. Do a railway going from Onitsha to Lagos, Alaba. Let that rail be steady. Eh? Somebody will go to Lagos in the morning and be back to Onitsha in the afternoon. Buying whatever he wants to buy, he wants to use, selling whatever he has produced, he wants to sell. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That person does that in 1 week and is consistent, does it in 1 month, is consistent, does it in 6 months, does it in 1 year. What are you talking about? Within the space of 2 years, to raise millionaires all over the place. It's about production. It's about market availability, right? Do you have access to Lagos? You have access to all this. You have I don't even want to go over seaport because I studied that with coming from the concept of Herbert Macaulay, and I know that was the important idea, not to allow any seaport for the East. I don't even want to go there. Nigeria is a structure that has structured itself not to work. It's an unstructured structure. Never to be structured.
Define that the fact that the structure was designed or predicated not to work. Do you think it was designed or built to favor some people?
There's one that the people they call it is designed to favor some people, and the British as well are concerned. If they wanted us to work, would have all these accusations, all these allegations that they are the ones that have kept it. They would have come out to say we don't have anything to do with this, right? And please though, do yourself. Amalgamation was in 1914, 1400 years ago. You can actually separate if you don't want, or agree to come together. Do you understand? If you agree to come together, please don't call us again. Or the royal, I don't know. I remember that. I forgot that company. They said they sold Nigeria for £108 million to. They sold Nigeria to the British in 1933. Do you understand? I say, oh, these are land. We own them, right? Few persons living here and there. The Igbos are the most intelligent people living over here. They are very, very industrious. This. They have a monarch already structured. This is a Yoruba. These are the Middle Belt. Oh, the North are over there, and they sold. I don't know if that's true. It could be true. Because people are selling lands in those days. That royal company, whatever they call them, we are having weights. They were coming from the Arabian people. Do you understand? And so they sold Nigeria for £108 million to the British, right? Now let's say that was a fallacy, or let's just say that that's not true. But then someone came in, gathered people together, called them regions, saw how they were existing as of 1914, and then got them together. And they happen to be people who would say, okay, we can actually see what is good about you people and help you people exist, right? Do you know one thing I ever regretted, or I wish happened? I wish the British stayed till the 90s.
This is absolutely insane. It's crazy. We just come to this huge market area.
What I would have done is to establish a railroad structure, a good road system, even though the UK don't have the best of, at least. And then the electricity 247. If they have done this thing, and then our oil, which they are interested in, creating refineries, not one, two, that is going to be working, knowing that the oil was booming at that time. As of 1991, Dubai was still struggling, even though they had oil, but they've not had the kind of leader that took them to where they are now. Do you understand? People tell you our biggest problem is leadership. It is leadership, but it's leadership by what? Some people have decided not to be good leaders, and even when you want to be a good leader, you cannot. If you ask me, we're going to come to that though. This particular election coming now, the next person is going to be the Nigerian president. We have to be as transparent as possible. No more hidden agendas. The only president we had that had that mindset when he died was Yar'Adua was the first president that would ever let people see Aso Rock on TV. Have you seen Aso Rock before? No, thank you. But it was during Yar'Adua's time that Aso Rock was open. He said, "This is your place. Don't you see the White House? Don't you walk down to the White House and walk around? Don't you see? Don't you see the meeting won't let you go inside, but we see it. Why is Aso Rock a hidden place? Like, I used to think it's a rock people build the houses on. But they want to use this Olumo rock to describe it. It was Yar'Adua. So anybody that is coming into the Nigerian state and right now as the president will have to be very, very transparent. And you need to call out at least 5 things that must be done if you want to move Nigeria forward. Number 1 is electricity. Number 2 is good road network. Remove anything you call federal road. That's a scam. Number 3 is education in terms of school structures from primary to secondary. Number 4 will be health.
So when you say education, like, I mean, initially we drove to the point that education is not within school.
This one I mentioned, school structure.
Okay.
I said in this number 3, the structural system of our educational system is poor. I came to the United States to understand that, man, we were not going to school, even though I never studied in Nigerian university, right? But I had brothers and sisters who did that, right? I studied in Nigerian primary school. Nigerian people, by the way we study, abstractly, that particular kind of a thing makes us one of the most intelligent people in the world. Because there is no, remember when you were in the primary school, they would teach you 1, 2, 3 by treating you terms 1, they bring out something 1, make it 2, right? Make it 3, make it 4. You are seeing that thing and you're counting and you're knowing how to count. In those days in the primary school, we used to carry a number of small balls and you count it up to 100, so you count and count 100, right? Those are what we call time to touch, kind of coming in contact with what you are studying. Do you know that that's how the medical people study? That's how engineering people study in Nigeria. They grab things like things have to be abstract. Engineering students have studied a lot of equations. They have done a lot of calculations. They never saw how it works. But right here, right now, that engineering guy that got a 2-2 in Nigeria comes in here, he will be a first-class student.
Yeah.
Just a slight thing, boom, he's there.
It's tangible. Like,
He will, thank you. His brain will be smarter and sharper. That's what we do well. Where do you think we do well? So the structure of our education makes us read books. That's why we have engineer Peter and Paul, James and John. They don't know anything how to build bridges. They've never seen the last bridge they saw how to build. They saw it on paper. Do you understand?
There's no budget.
In the 80s,
there's no budget they can actually plug themselves in.
In the 80s, they used to say that engineering students in terms of building will go to sites where the Nigerian government is building let's say we are building the Niger Delta, the second Niger Bridge, right? All this sort of stuff. The engineering students will be there to see what's happening. It will be part of their curriculum.
Yeah, they'll be participating.
They will see how these things are done. They will see that drawings, they see those things, they will understand it. Right? Somehow, I think our medical people are the ones that are strong because they can use this cadaver kind of a thing, dead bodies and animals, can tear. Those ones they still do. But outside of the medical, which is also not very wonderful, I have met computer science students that do not know how to code, that don't have a computer. In their lab, they are restricted. When I was admitted into the university in the United States, the lecturer said, we have 40 students and 40 computers. We are not taking anybody else. Do you understand? So each and everybody coming into the school has a computer, your own, with your name and your password to log into that computer. By the time they are leaving, the next of people who come in to use that computer, they also have their name, they have a password they have to log in with. Do you understand? Things are structured. When our education is structured that way, then you begin to see that the educative aspect of our life becomes improved.
But let me bring us back a little bit. Now, when we talk about education, what about like some technical education? Like when I was in Nigeria, I went to NIT. It's an IT school for web developers and software developers in Nigeria. So, I went there and we had a whole lot of computers in there for students. And it was an Indian company, right? They established this institution.
It has to be India.
Yeah. So we were exposed to computers. Like we literally had computers all around us. And we're able to build our tech skills as developers. So when you say education, what about those ones that are just not universities?
Okay. I think that's what I said when I talk about structural education, right? Where you come out with a certificate. Also, the polytechnics, like I was talking to a couple of my friends who are in polytechnics, I said, polytechnics study more than those in the university because they have too many practicalities to show for their work, right? Also, in those, and this what you just said now, these are the ones, when you put them in kind of a boot camp, you teach them what you want them to do. You must have created that environment for them to even see what you want to teach them. So there is a specimen for them to lay their hands on. There are availability of resources and materials for them to use, right? You structure it in such a way that they can learn what you want them to learn. Mechanics can learn what they want to learn. But do you know that some mechanics do not even have the reason why they will charge you very well or very high because they have to use the generator to power certain things they have to do for you, or to welders. All these are handy people who can do stuff. Someone can get themselves learned in that area. So when someone wants to go to school, that is their structured education. Do you want us to start calling those who they said they dropped out of school? But they didn't stop educating themselves. but they dropped out of some. They are billionaires today. They concentrated on something they want to produce. They concentrated on something they want to develop themselves. And they concentrated on that very well, that they are the masters of that thing. If you do not create that environment for the Nigerian child, you cannot get the best of himself out of him. He will get discouraged in one point because he finds himself doing some. Have you seen that little boy that was going all the way designing trucks, cars with simple plastics? Those are skills.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So now let me just push us a little bit forward, all right? Now we've been able to conceptualize the ideal situation that is going to make Nigeria better. Do you think age is affecting how the current leaders we have now? Do you think age is affecting the way they think about these ideas we just talked about?
No. I don't think it's about age. I think it's also about the confinement of ideas they already have, what they think Nigeria should be.
So do you think
that is a confinement? That is something that we can't go within this limit. Don't go here, don't go here. No. This is not part of what we have in the script.
Okay.
Stay here.
So
That's the problem.
So do you think a younger person comes into the office? Do you think the person is going to be in that confinement of structure these people already orchestrated for themselves?
Because one of the problems we have is the way we select leaders. You see what happened among delegates, right? If those old men who are leading, that what we call our grandfathers or our forefathers who are still in government, want you to shut down the mouth of everybody, saying, oh, young people are the ones that will be really, okay, come and be that person. We'll tell you what to do. That's the problem. That same person. We need to be a tyrant to these guys to be able to say, okay, give it to me. Tell me what you want me to do. They will say, hey, hello, fellow Nigerians. You see, we are bringing Alex, one of the young men. He's not to 30 years old, so clap for him. We clap, right? Then we go back and say, yeah, our president is going to be a young man. No. The problem is, who is this guy? Who is going to tell him what to do? Who is he going to be reporting to? Because age is not the problem. I have always said age is not the problem. But since age is not the problem, we have old people who doesn't even want to allow the reasonable younger people to do stuff. So if you bring an elderly person who knows what to do you understand? Who follows the structure, who understands Nigeria has gone so much in suffering, but he can put on a structure that will remove these bad guys we've been suffering all the while and put up what will make the youth come out properly. Then that's fine. Or a young man who is not going to fall back to the godfathers and do the peace of the godfathers. You see, that is why Nigeria is on a crossroad right now.
Okay, so is Tinubu a godfather?
He has been a godfather since 2001 or since 1999.
So does he have a godfather?
He could have a godfather because someone brought him all the way. But don't forget, this is the problem. This is just the problem. Most of Tinubu started his career, if you go to study him, as an activist. That young man or that young old man was one of the people who fought for people, for democracy as it is. Do you understand? The problem is having this insatiability of power or thinking that something is not okay for you until you get to what is okay for you for whatever reason that okay means. Do you understand? There is this thing, one of the Australian neurologists called Sigmund Freud. He's a psychologist. He studied the personality traits of a human being. He said there is an id, there is an ego, and there is a super ego. In the id, it's about, everything is about sensuality, insatiability, satisfaction. Yeah. So he described the id as sensuality, the idea of hunger, grab. Human being is primitive and wants to grab what he has to safeguard himself. We call it ego. But now he differentiates that from ego, from the sense of critical self-preservation, facing reality. If someone comes in here now with a knife, you didn't invite him, he just comes there standing right here before you, the first thing you do is self-preservation, right? First, before you even realize that I'm here. Do you understand? So Sigmund Freud, he's a neurosurgeon. He's one of the first person that developed the theory of psychoanalysis. studying math people, how people react to things, why people break down the brain, all those things. In his theory, he said the ego is not selfish. Egoism and egocentrism different from hedonism. In this case, what you want to do is you want to first of all save yourself. Then you have the chance to save others. Right. That's a different thing. If you dodge a bullet now, boom, 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 you see you're alive. You now come this way, right? Because if they shoot you, you die. You can't talk to me. That is ego. The ego will come for itself. But the id is selfish, greed, primitive, unlearned, aggressive, sensually unsatisfiable. That is the problem of a critical Nigerian politician. Then there is the super ego. The super ego is the one that goes so extreme, right? Sometimes it's extreme for good, sometimes it's extreme for bad. So, yeah, something like Adolf Hitler. Thank you very much. But super ego, you want to say, oh, I'm the Superman here, I'm going to do this the way I want it, nobody's going to do me. I don't want to do this. So the ego comes to bring what they call, the realists call realistic perspective. So Sigmund Freud is saying, when you study the personality of most contemporary politicians of his time, some of them end up at the end of the day going blind and going mad before they get old. Because they struggle so much to keep acquiring, and they don't get satisfied. They break down at the end of the day. The Nigerian politician has come to that, have not left the id level. They do not know that we do not need too much to have a personality upbringing or personality structure. They think that by having this, having that, no matter how you have it, is what matters. Oh, when I now get it, don't worry. I'll give you what is your name again? I'm going to give you 100 million. You now you're a nice man. No, that guy is trying to safeguard himself. He has not left the level of id. So most of our politicians who are godfathers are not godfathers to guide you to. Godfathers are good. We call them mentors in those days. Right? If you have a political godfather, he's supposed to be good. Right? Somebody will say, oh, do not do this thing. Like, come on, you are supposed to build a school for your people and it's 100 million. Why did you use 10 million to build? Your godfather should sit you up and bounce on you.
He should be predicated on.
Thank you. Somebody you fear. In societal balance, we say, who do you fear? Who do you respect? There are certain things now I can't do because I know that somebody, like my brother, my sister, or my father will call me, or I have an uncle now that will put a call on me now
Check on you.
and say, "We'll go. Is this true? I'm hearing about you." So when I remember that, then I can't do this because do you understand? That is what's supposed to be the godfatherism aspect. But when the ism goes into it, it's always negative. So the Nigerian government or Nigerian perspective or Nigerian have not gone away from the id, right? That also will also justify the idea of social contract abstraction. In the modern times, how do we come up to a society? How do we decide to put ourselves into a situation whereby we tell you to be in charge of us? That's what we call social contract. The social contract, the people come together and take their sovereignty and give to you. Someone like Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, the social contract in here, the people said, take care of us. All the things that are bad, you don't want us to do. Punish us for it. All the things that are good, that you need us to do, insist that we do them.
And incentivize us.
And give us good mark when we do them. Do you understand? If we do not do them well, punish us. That's why they tell you that the government is the most powerful institution. Because they can punish you. They can still credit you. Right? In Hobbes' idea, he's going too extreme. Give every power to the government and let them handle us. John Locke, in his own social contract, said, no. The people should be the power.
Okay.
Do you understand? Okay. The people should be the power, because if you give all the power, the people should have the right to remove the government if they do anyhow. That's why democracy is coming from.
Yeah, but I also believe that even if not the people, there's someone who's supposed to represent the people. And that person should be out of power, and that person is out of the government, but should be able to put the government.
That is why you call this societal activists and stuff like that. Because structural society.
Just like the story of David took someone's wife, killed the person, slept with the person's wife, and took the person's inheritance and all that. And then there was someone who was outside the government, but had some kind of power.
That's the prophet. That's the prophet.
Yeah, so it's more something like that.
Yeah, if you're coming from that perspective, you're talking about checkmating the government with religion. So there was a time, there was a separation.
Not in all cases it has to do with religion.
I'm using the prophet from the perspective of religion. Right. Because Prophet Nathan is a prophet of God. David is supposed to be the eye of God, the man God loves so much, even when he was doing stupid stuff, right? And to having done that, God spoke to Nathan. Nathan didn't know until he was revealed to him, right? And said, see, my servant has done something. Go and tell him that what he did is going to receive punishment. And Nathan, when he was going, was afraid David can cut off his head. Do you understand? But he had to speak because somebody told him to speak. He had the power. Talking to him to speak. And he did that. This is checkmating the government. Now, when you come to social contracts, in terms of checkmating the government, the people, the political philosopher John Locke said, you have to give the power to the people. Because the people's idea about power is different from what extreme, they say extreme power is so bad. Like you don't want to say what we're doing in Nigeria, like, oh, you can do everything. The government has, the president has the power to do that. No checkmate and all that, right? So these guys thought about social contract in such a way that you want to make sure that the government is not so there that the people don't have any say.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't want to say to the people, oh, you can wake up and just tell the government whatever you want to do, and then every time you be changed. So these have been uncontroversial issues.
Yeah, that is why there's a space for impeachment. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where Constitution came from. That's where rules and regulation came from. That's why you can say this and that should not be done. Now, when you table that to the Nigerian situation, what is our social contract? What did we sign? Now that brings you over to the amalgamation. When we came together as far back as around 1914, when we had the first parliament of 1963 to 1960 before the coup started, right? How was the regions existing? Who were the people that came together and said, okay, this is what we agreed on? Who is following that agreement right now? Some people feel that when we went into the federal system of government, where we're not even federated in it, we are not patronage to federalism, we just copied America, came down home and scattered the paper. We're not following it exactly like it is, right? We just do whatever we have. Why don't we go back to that regional government that everybody can stay on their own and contribute to the state or something like that? Now, this is because they've looked at the way people are being treated. There are those who are called political anarchists, somebody like Martin Heidegger, somebody like Karl Habermas, somebody like Immanuel Kant. These are political analysts of the 17th, 18th century. Politics has been there right before we were even born. People have put a lot in structure, how they think this thing should go. These guys called social anarchists. What are they called? They look at the government's attitude and they say, the only person corrupting the people is the government. You know what that means? You just killed somebody and it took the government, and you are a big man, we work with big man, that's all right? You are a big man, right? You are known. Who do you know? Who can you put a call across? Hello, you are senator. Some policemen just came here to harass me that I killed someone. Who? Tell them to come back, sir. No problem, sir. I will handle them, sir. Then I, a nobody, a non-entity, happened to fight somewhere and somebody died, right? The government, the police takes me a little bit, throw me into the prison, start even beating me before knowing that I want to kill that person. That is the government system corrupting the people. When 2 to 3 to 5 persons notice what happens? They know that there are some rules that are not applicable to everybody. But if you want to draw a social whereby everybody is subjected to the rules, then that is when you start creating a sane society. So if you want to dissolve the Nigerian confusion right now, bring in back maybe all these parties, just like Nigerians have tried to do this by next year, right? Ask APC, ask PDP, even the Labour Party that is making waves now, ask AAC, ask NNPP, all these other parties, we are looking to see if we can come together and do something very magical or very miraculous to remove APC and PDP. Because right now, the biggest challenge is to remove APC and PDP. That's what the Nigerian people, right? Because these guys have fed us, right? Ask them, what are the social, economical, and political contracts you want to bring up? Forget about manifesto. That is a nonsense. It has never worked. It has never worked. And I've never seen a government that went and said, oh, we want to roll down our manifesto for people to say that everything we said we did. They have all failed. So come together again. Tell us what your social contract is. Let's know it. Because as it stands now, Nigerians are living in what the Danish political analyst called Soren Kierkegaard. He called it the leap of faith. We are just holding our hands and saying, hey, will this work? Can this be true? Hey, God, no. No! Do you understand? We are falling back to God, though, to do what we ordinarily in the society want to do. Right?
Like someone said, someone defined faith as one's willingness to demolish his intellect for superstition.
That's Emmanuel Kant. He said, I remove my knowledge in order to understand faith. I give back to anything I think I know so that I will have faith to hold on. That's Emmanuel Kant talking. He's coming from the perspective of the people's sentiment to their ruler. Nigerians are the worst in that thing. I can tell you for free that you cannot, and I thought I speak from the perspective of someone who understands religion, coming from my background, right? There is nothing as confusing as this thing you call the sentiment of religion. I don't want to go to the opium of the masses kind of a thing, that massism. I don't know.
Marxism, that's what it is.
I don't want to go.
Something we can talk
Because he was angry.
Yeah.
He was. I would rather go to my best German philosopher, who is called Friedrich Nietzsche. I would go to Nietzsche's idea. Nietzsche in 1888, before he had a brain fag. This guy was a 24-year-old guy when he became a professor in politics. As young as he was able to dictate that the society has failed the people, and people still cling to God. Nietzsche was the one who questioned that God is there. Not because of the negative aspect, but he's thinking that how can there be a God and these things are still happening? How come people cling to something that doesn't even save their life?
The reason that God is there is that we have to now start to create our own.
And he created what he called the Ubermensch, the Superman. In his idea, he created the Ubermensch. Go and look at Friedrich Nietzsche's Ubermensch. What is he talking about? For me, do you know that sometimes I think stupidly? I think I could just go somewhere and get a power. That is not diabolical. Fly where I am air. This is me thinking about.
We all did.
No,
mine was crazy. Do you know there was a time I would walk past a car dealership in Nigeria and just felt like I could walk into that car dealership and take any car I want.
You are the one you want to steal. I'm thinking about solving a problem. Like I want to go into Boko Haram. I want them to be shooting me and the one is not getting at me. Do you understand? That's Nietzsche's Superman. How do you solve a social problem that is actually corrupting the people? Right? Because in his idea, he is thinking that the people are linking to faith and the people are also linking to politics to save them. The only two things that can define your life is religion and politics. And so the idea of separating religion from politics came about. Do you understand? So if I become a Superman and I want to rule Nigeria, in Nietzsche's idea, he calls it the master's morality versus the slave morality. What that means is, as a master, you have overcome some moral consciousness that will not make you say, oh, this person is, you're my friend, but you stole 100 million. How do I save you? I've gone over that. You're going to jail. There's no discussion.
That is the only predicament we can experience through change.
I am telling you. So, but then, the slave morality is like, there are certain things they punish the poor people for doing it. But the rich man does it and he goes for free. Right? So Nietzsche divided morality into two. Master's morality and slavery morality. And that is a problem in the society. Because that is what is happening. How would you define a country like Nigeria, who say you are a social, political country, a state? You call yourself a state, right? And you allow yourself to be rigmarolled by both religion and politics. So people come out in the House of Assembly and they say, oh, due to certain level, we cannot marry a 13-year-old because we have to allow our children to be at least 18 years old before they are called adults, right? And then somebody goes and marries a 13 years or 12 years. And he's a senator. And somebody who is also intelligent, like I begin to ask myself, am I this dumb? Comes into the same house and tells you that his religion allows. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? It shows that you are so confused that you are not even a state. The state defines the structure of how the system is going to work. Nothing more, nothing less.
And the state is responsible to uphold the definition.
I am telling you, this is what it is. So you cannot come and contradict yourself. Okay, I got confused when they killed Deborah. You remember what happened? The lady that was.
Yeah.
So I listened to up to, in my own judgment, I sat down and I listened to at least 10 narratives.
Mm-hmm.
People making videos, complaining. 10 up to, at least more, because I listened to a lot of those. Up to 10, nobody ever answered the main question I felt that should have been thrown to anybody who is a Muslim. I know there are definitions of different shires and the different section of Muslim, right? But this thing came from somewhere, and the Arabs are there. They are not going to run away, right? Why can't we ask ourselves, this girl says something in WhatsApp. This girl did something that is not against, let me say, is against your religion, right? And she was killed. I just want to know one thing. Is it stipulated in Islam that if somebody speaks against Muhammad, that person should be killed? Simple.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says the pulling down of his reaction to the killing of Sakwata College student Deborah Samuel does not amount to condoning religious intolerance. Atiku Abubakar added that he has been loud in condemning religious issues that tend to divide Nigerians. The former vice president is one of the aspirants seeking the presidential ticket of the PDP ahead of next year's presidential election. He was in Benin, the capital of Edo State, in continuation of his effort to woo delegates ahead of the PDP presidential primary.
Every tweet has to get my approval. Unfortunately, this tweet, because I was traveling all over the country, did not have my approval. So I said it should be taken out. And that every tweet must have my express approval. I am not a person who is afraid to take stand on issues. You know the stand I took on Sharia. I was pelted, I was abused in the north, but then how long did the Sharia last? I told them they were having a political Sharia. And I was vilified. They threw stones at me. There is nothing they did not do. That did not make me change.
Answer the question. If it is yes, what does that tell me? I get to know I won't speak against Muslims because I don't want you to kill me. And if I see you as a Muslim, I know you can kill me if I do something like that. Because I know in my head, as a Christian, no matter what you talk about Jesus, I can never talk off your head. Right? We look at Jesus is a fool, he's an idiot. I'll just say, may God have mercy on you. The stupidity of Nigerian Christianity, or the stupidity of Christianity, which is what Christ himself teaches. Don't worry, don't fight. If they slap you here, give them this or that. Not those kind of a thing. Right? There is nothing an Islam person will say against. I can tell you, stop being stupid. You are being this. You are demonic. I can just tell you the thing, and I'll pray for you. You know, this is the standard of Christianity. Now tell me that of Islam. Does it say to kill a child? Because he said nonsense Muhammad, or he said whatever he, because those who translated what he said, right?
So I recently read the Quran, and I've forgotten the actual part, but here is the precondition or the presupposition that I believe it is predicated on. Now, because there's been an evolution of how it's been understood over the years, and it is just simply this way: let Allah judge you for what you have done, but before then, you should be judged in your own moral value. Not really moral value. I'm trying to conceptualize it. I'm trying to say it exactly how I read it, but it's not. The Quran doesn't really support actual physical violence, but there is a system which people can actually penalize someone for their wrongdoing, which has to do with this disfellowshipment or disengagement. So so I think the Quran kind of encourages disengagement with someone who has blasphemed.
Disengagement is allowed because even in Christianity it's also allowed. They tell you, do not report to this person if he does, then
you
allow.
know, coming from history, the Israelites, when they were asked to disengage, it's more like they're also asked to exterminate. So, but because of the translation of the light in this era, no one now, because now the act of murder is now directly against the Constitution. The Quran also said you have to follow the Constitution first.
Okay, now bring it now when you bring it down to Nigeria as a state.
But the thing about it is, so I cannot defend this.
There should be no defense.
I'm not here to defend it.
Thank you. There should be no defense. Yes or no question.
I've gone through a lot of comparison between the Islam in third worlds like Nigeria and the Islam here. Their values are really different.
Okay, now how long have the Nigerian government or Nigerian people seen violence of this type to take a stand? That is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the contraction.
This is really from the
thank you very much. That's what I'm going.
A firm constitutional foundation.
That's what I'm going to. That's what my interest is not even whether some people, there have been scholars of this thing for the past 2 to 3 to 4 to 500 years. There should be no confusion. There have been people, things evolve. John Darwin talks about the natural selection, natural theory of evolution, right? Things keep evolving. Things keep settling themselves naturally. In John Darwin natural selection, he talks about there are certain things naturally they will resolve themselves without even you putting an effort. Most of the things we've struggled today, right? You know them before you come into decision making. You take a stand. What that means in terms of those violence, because if you don't take a stand, it's going to repeat itself. And if you repeat itself, somebody will refer to the case that happened, what you didn't do, right? So take a stand. In your constitution, is a citizen expected to kill another citizen, religion or no religion? Do you understand? Thank you very much. Now, you now watch the Nigerian government talk of APC. I watched it all through. I tried to see if anybody stood up to make a categorical statement. Go and watch the kind of categorical statement Sowolu made when there was a violence in Lagos and a guy was killed, 2 were injured, right? By the Okada people, right? Sowolu made this very straight up order, vehemently, and I'll say again because it will affect the poor. This is Sorin Kekega's morality, master morality, and slavery morality. He was able to stand because nobody above the middle class is running Okada now. Do you understand? So he took a very strong stand. There should be no Okada in Lagos, everywhere in this. It was so strong. I want you guys to take those kind of a stand when you have to do with everybody else, no matter their level. That's what I'm looking at. I like what he did. I like how vehement he was. I like how straightforward he was. Straightforward, none. In as much as that was not going to go anyway, because there's no job. You don't make statements that you know that the aftermath is even worse than what you just said. Do you understand? You start putting structures in place or start picking up punishment for whatever happens. Do you understand what I'm saying? When that happened, they killed that young man for nothing, just because of accusation. When was the last time you hear a government like Nigerian government say there should be no jungle justice ever?
But at the same time, you have to start defining the word jungle justice because it has to be
killing by mob is jungle justice. Thou shalt not. These are, I'm talking from my perspective as a system analyst. There are words you use when you are talking with a developer, when you're working with a developer, you are telling the developer, do this. Not maybe, if you like, do it. Do you understand? Take a straightforward answer or word and stand by it. Thou shalt not kill anybody. You got a game doing this or that. Bring that person to the police. Okay, that now brings us to the next step. Police will also compromise. That's why people do stuff. Therefore, you see, you've taken the structure to align your problem and start solving them. You cannot start from what Nigerian people call it shinmin, right? And then you leave the other side of it, right? You get to the grassroots of a problem and you start solving it. Either you go top, bottom, or bottom, top, but there must be a structural way to solve a problem. If you stop Okada, these people don't have a job. They'll start going to people's houses and start killing and start eating. Thank you. If you don't stop Okada, these things will continue happening because you don't want Okada to be everywhere. What do? You stop stealing money and stop putting these infrastructures in place. Simple. The railway, the Lagos is doing right now, you know about it? Yeah, they picked up a railway. How many years does it take a contractor to finish that? For goodness sake, we are all project managers. I know the project I'm doing right now when it's supposed to be released, right? How many years? Who have the money? How do you take? Tomorrow morning now you hear it has been abandoned by this because Solu didn't win the election. It has been abandoned. Is that how the society runs? The society is not in any way attached to the government, or rather the governor. These are progressive people. They keep moving. So we look and move to another post tomorrow, right? Another person comes in, Lagos continues. That's when you ask me if Tinubu has been a godfather. I say he has been a godfather all his life, as far as politics is concerned. So because if he was a good godfather, Lagos would have been one of the best places you want to live in here in the world. I'm not even talking because they have the money, they have the. If you have water beside you, okay, you know what that means? And you have how many seaports?
Automatically resource.
I am telling you, do you know what that means to be to a Lagos state? Do you know how much money those people make? So, if these guys have structured Lagos in a way, Dubai is a small place compared to Lagos. Every part of Lagos, I mean, not the one that all these celebrities are staying and say, there's no problem in Lagos, Lagos is fine. No, there are dungeons. There are dirty areas. When I came back the last time in Lagos, I was wondering, one guy who carried me in the taxi took a very small road. You know, there are some areas that are one way, they try to do that, but it doesn't work because there's no structure. If they start putting certain things in order, now they're going to destroy. Destruction is not the problem. Making sure that you destroy something to build it better or to settle those people, right, is one matter because you have to create a society that works. It's going to affect people, but for good. Amechi did it in Port Harcourt and cleared so many roads. After that, we're happy. The reason is taking stand to take decisions that will help the people. We have a society where people want to, if I start this in 4 years now, we have 200 billion. I will finish this project and this 200 billion will finish with it. I won't have any money. So I just leave it and try to do something and keep 100 billion. That is the problem. Can you go into a society you want to change, find out how much you can make from that society, and use the resources of that society and translate them? Go and look at Dubai. Go and look at the family that is handling Dubai. Look at how Dubai is. Why are we rushing to go there? Somebody did that. There is a big gap between, I hate to say this, but it's true. A typical black man in politics or in societal construction to that of a white man. It's a big gap. We are here to grow. A typical black man thinks that when he has money and buying a gold toilet, and you tell you he's pooing in a gold toilet, that makes him a wonderful person. The white person wants to use that money he has and make sure that all in his environment is looking as good, even if he's driving a vehicle. Right? But the other person, like me, wants to drive a Lamborghini and build it and go to Bottas.
Okay, so
do you understand?
Yeah. So because of time now, let's just conclude this with something really concrete now. You've mentioned some wonderful points, and I just want to reiterate it. Firstly, you said that the structure that we are, firstly, you mentioned about electricity, that if we have a good electricity, it's going to help us increase our GDP, production and everything, and then we can have at least production directly proportional to our expenditures, or at least above our expenditure. And you said that it's not really about age, that we need someone who can uphold the law and uphold the system, that is developed and that is, even at that time. Now, which should they do first? If an ideal leader is coming in right now, given the chaos that we already experiencing, what should he do first? You said that promising us to do things might not be the ideal case, and that we want to see the social construct. I can't remember if you said social construct, but you need to see contract that they can have with the people on how they manifest their governance or how they manifest their time in office.
That gives the people the power to follow them up and do stuff. So
Right.
when I come from what you're saying, I would say, freedom comes with responsibility, right? And one of our contemporary philosophers, James Rousseau, said, "Man is free, but everywhere he changes." Means regulation, keeping man, even when you think you're free. I am driving my car, but I have to stop by the stop sign, follow the red light before I move. But I would like to drive my car everywhere I like, right? Yeah. That is a regulation. I am free to drive my car, but I'm also in jail because the red light catches me. I paid $250 the last time from DC. I never knew I had the tickets. Do you understand? I kept asking them, how did I run speed? I don't know. Do you know what happened? It was increased. It was last month. I never knew I had a ticket. Now, I had a friend I was driving with, and I said, Uncle, you're driving slow. I said, slow. I'm driving like this because I don't want to get a ticket. I am confined to obey a regulation. Because I don't know where the camera was. How in the world did I pay $250? Not knowing that I was on speed. Because somebody put in a regulation telling me, even though you are free to drive your car in DC, if you do this like this, you're going to be in trouble. That is what the Nigerian state needs. Put the regulation that works and allow it to work. I am always so sorry to say this, but it's all true. The Nigeria you have now will have to decide to work before it works. If not, even if you put Jesus, the God of right now.
So who are these people?
Let me tell you how Nigeria blackmails itself. This is why I said that society doesn't want to work. Nigeria is the easiest state right now to rule if you want to make it work, because the people are willing to do the right thing. The problem is the 2% who are in charge are so much in charge that they are threatened by the availability around them. So they want to make sure whoever is coming is someone that will dance their tune. There had never been an election in Nigeria from 1999. There had been selection. Obasanjo was selected. He himself knew it. Obasanjo selected Yar'Adua. Jonathan, maybe the second coming of Jonathan, after that 2 years, right, it was agreed that he had to come from the south. All these shenanigans they are doing now, where it's going to is. Jonathan was agreed to continue. People were still running for election, right? But these guys have agreed. I cannot forget that I listened to Obasanjo stand on his own ground and tell us that don't worry. Even the Tinubu that was saying yesterday that they made Buhari president. It is true. Do you understand? Obasanjo told me that they have selected Buhari to lead us, that we shouldn't bother, that he will lead us well. Because the two of them were in their Obasanjo presidency. He was 37 years old. Buhari was less than 49 or 48 when he was the best president. These are young guys, but now they're still ruling, right? I don't even want to talk about that. But this is that you promised me. Now, I don't have a problem with me selecting you, Alex, to telling people to vote you because I think you will do it. And you go there and mess up, right? I should have the moral right to say, please, I'm sorry. I thought Alex was a nice guy. We agreed he was going to do electricity, this. But now he has messed us up. He's not doing the right thing. I won't blame you so much. But coming out and hiding yourself like you don't even know that you were part of the problem we had is the problem. These guys have always selected who becomes president. And I'm telling you now, I read it on Twitter. One of the RFI guys was saying there is no way Obi will be a president.
That leads to the question.
There is no way.
That leads to the question. So my apology for interrupting you. Who do you want to vote for in this coming election?
I'm going to come to that time, right? Okay. Whoever would I want to vote? If I am to vote, I'm not in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
Then they've always fought for diaspora voting. There is a reason why diaspora voting will not vote. Because everybody that left Nigeria and came into the United States, UK, Canada, Australia, wherever that is not Nigeria, have gotten sense. Do you understand? I used to argue with that. Like, if I argue with Nigerian people, I just say, I can't argue with you because you don't know too much. Forget about that thing. So Olu should be prepared for of Lagos State. I remember those days. So don't go to Lagos State. That's fine. because they have told you to vote him. What do you know? If you ask me to vote today, if you ask diaspora people to vote today, and their vote counts, reasonable people, sensible people, diaspora, every Nigerian outside the country, we are how many million, right? And Sowore is running for president, they will vote that guy. The next person will be Peter Obi. Nobody will vote Tinubu now. Do you understand? Nobody will vote anybody. Nobody will vote Atiku. I'm telling you for free.
So are you basically saying you vote Sowore if you give him the chance?
If I'm given the chance, I will vote him as the president. But if I am right now, because I'm not, I don't think he's even running again or something. I don't think it's
so but
I will vote Peter Obi right now.
So if you vote Sowore as the president, who will you put as the vice?
I'm not the one to select the vice. The president brings his vice. Because this is one of the areas I'm looking at.
That's what I'm talking about, ideal. What is the ideal combination that you would go
if you had asked me this in 2019, right? This is where I had a problem. I had a very... In fact, I wish I could just bring Morgan, put his head like this, give him enough. Bring Sowore, put his head, give him enough. Bring Duro Toye, like give all these intelligence guys big knocks. You know why? When Buhari was showing sign of failure, these guys came out. So really a wonderful guy, right? Morgano to the roof. Everybody knows this. Duro Toye has established businesses. He is out there. OBA of the president was part of them. We all hoped, wanted, Nigerians were angry. Hungry and angry and aggressive to see something coming new from these guys. All I was seeing in that interview is Sowore telling me how he has worked for 30 years, I've been doing so well, he wants to be Nigerian president. And then I'm seeing Morgan saying, oh, well, he was better than Sowore. No. I watched a video of a young man who came out and said, listen, guys, you guys don't need to do this. Why don't people come together? They started planning to do their part. That part was the party they wanted. Sowore said he was never invited, right? He came and he discovered, this is the problem with a typical black man. What is your problem? We want to solve a problem. You guys have good ideas. Morgano was there. Dorothea was there. Two other persons who were running for president and in the little capacity were there. So said he came in and he discovered that what they wanted to do was also to find a way to do something and bring out Dorothea. And so he never was part of the part. And so he backed up and said to God, I was so broken. What does it take? You guys have had the money, you've drove the cars, you've been to places, you've been intelligent, you are everything. What does it take for you people to come together? One of you, take one of you. It doesn't matter who thinks he has, because that was the issue I had with Morgan. He was saying how brilliant he has been, how educated he was more than everybody, which is true. But at that point, you really don't need to do this. Do you understand? If you think, at that point, to God who made me the way we used to speak in the other, if Sowore had become, my fear with Sowore that he will start fighting he's very aggressive, right? Everybody is a corrupt person. Sowore might be fighting for 4 years.
Yeah,
do you understand?
Really accomplished.
Thank you. He might, because he's angry. I'm like, he might be fighting, doing the right thing to get those people down. He might be fighting for 4 years. Morgano is an Igbo man. I don't see the North very much ready for an Igbo president. This is the fact. Even right now with Peter. And I have not seen the Southwest very comfortable for an Igbo man because their politicians and elites are always looking for where will he go for us. Nobody is caring about that country. So right now, if these guys have put themselves together, even if they failed, they have been very ready now to sweep APC and
yeah, they should be ready by this time.
Thank you. They would have been very ready right now. Now, Sowore is coming out again. He's still in detention, or maybe there's some restriction about them being able to release the cop. They have tried to tell. Why are they dealing with him? Because he's always saying the truth in a raw sense. Do you understand?
And lack of backup.
No, he had backups. He had all the. He never messed up.
Who is backups?
He has all the evidence, and that was the problem.
Evidence about backup. I mean,
political people.
Right. Yeah,
but no, you can't get those things in Nigerian setting. Now let me use Machiavelli's political social idea for you. Machiavelli said, Niccolo Machiavelli, right? The man that made a very nasty statement for politicians to use, the end justifies the means, right? So what was he saying? He said, do not expect a politician to be a truthful person. You cannot balance Christianity, or because by then Christianity was powerful. Like the Roman Empire and the Pope was almost everywhere with everyone, right? Thank you. So you cannot balance truthful religion with truthful politics. You have to find a way to lie a bit for the good of the people. You have to find a way to be nice, be aggressive, stand strong in decision making, but be soft with the society. So balance these things. Machiavelli was so strong in his theories in terms of coming from the war during in the 17th century or that England always fighting. People were killing people. But he wants someone who can come on while the war is going on. People are angry about something. Someone who can stand and tell the society what to do. If you see something that is bad, say it as it is. If it is punishment, punish the people. But make sure you go back to the people and make sure that you are also in good terms with them. We don't have those kind of people. So what they copied and held strong was the aim justifies the means. Do anything bad. What matters is you get where you're going. So even if you kill all your political opponents, you get to the point. That's what matters. So when you come to right now, these guys do not have what they call the war chest, which is stolen money, as far as I'm concerned. And however angry, why we are poor, some people are making money from us, right? These guys, Peter doesn't have this. He doesn't have the structure. That's a very stupid statement to make. You know why? Because it's discouraging. He doesn't have the structure. Yes, human beings are the structure. I am more concerned about the northerner being comfortable with Peter. So if you want to find out if Peter can go all the way out, because there are 25% of vote expected of you from all regions. There are 774 polling booths in Nigeria. How are you going to get all through? Now, we are the human beings. We need to be the ones to do a couple. If we have the diaspora structure, how do we help the people at home? How do we tell the Labour Party how to get agencies all over the place? We have 6 months to go from now, or 7 months. What do you want to do? How do we get a Showore, a Mogalo, an NPP in the north, Pampaso? I don't know if it's going to do, right? How do we get some of that small part, SDP? How do we get these guys to come together and form the kind of coalition APC formed to remove PDP? That is the only thing I think that will make Peter go up. And Peter is going to have the sentiment of the fact that people want the Southeast to bring out the president, right? But do you know that PDP wants to pick a vice president from the north, from the east? That, again, is a division. I wouldn't have a problem with that to an extent because PDP has the right to their political party, right? But I have a problem with something I also read from Ohanes Ndi, coming from one of my brothers who said something about one of my brothers who is running for Senate, right? He said, oh, the Ohanes Ndi said the Nigerian government, the Igbo politicians should never go for vice. We want the presidency or nothing, right? If you are in PDP or APC, they offer you the vice president. Tell them no. My people, right, don't want it. Our socio-cultural organization from the Igbo land, like Ohanes Ndi, need the kind of respect that will give them weight to speak onto power. You are the one making them weak. They speak, you do the other. Because of why? Party? Reason is because if they choose somebody like Emeka Ihedioha as vice president, PDP, they are going to somehow, Emeka has, right? He's going to divide, even if it is 10%, the actual number that should go to Peter from the east. Now, Ohanes Ndi have said, do not. What it means is give it to any southwest person. Any Nigerian southeast person can take up any other post in the party if you win, right? A ministerial position, any other top government position, no problem. But that senatorial post, like a senate, no problem. But that vice presidency, we say with the people's power, who is the Ohanes Ndi, has said they don't want it. Why can't the politicians obey it? They don't want to obey it. So when you come from that perspective, you are looking at Peter who wants to run for presidency. They're expecting that, okay, let no other person coming from the south, because of course, APC is going to remove everybody that's from the south, right? So let's say Peter is the only one from the south that is standing on the Labour Party. Labour has always fought for the people. Whether they go and do they give them money, they go back, whatever that is, right? But they've already tried to stop the government from doing a lot of stuff, right? They go on strike, they do this. That Labour Party can be restructured in such a way that it can become a third force. When that becomes a third force, call in your people, look outside, look inward, look extreme, look where your talents are, begin to organize those you think that can run for governorship in different states under the Labour. Do you understand? Because it's not up to presidency that will work. Sweep everything. Begin to select those who will run Senate under the Labour, House of Representatives, House of Assembly. Begin to do those things because that is the grassroots. When you begin to select people from that perspective, you are beginning to send people down all the way. Look for reasonable people, though. Yeah. That is important. That's when you get to the grassroots. That's when you do the outright structure we want to do now. But if they keep wasting time, so whoever wants to come in, this guy wants to come in, they still divide their votes. This thing will not get APC will win because they need to find a way to win or PDP.
The idea you just mentioned now, how, given your estimate, how long do you think it's going to take to do all those things?
It is money and the will of the people.
But now, given time, how long do you think this?
Before the election, before we get into January, they should be able to. The things have changed. We can, let me say, I get to know where someone in the US who is coordinating people in the diaspora, right? Is maybe trying to say, okay, we have a meeting here, we have people come here, come if you want to do something, Who can go, make a Saturday or Sunday. You understand? We go, deliberate something, contribute money, and then look for where there are zones. The structures are already there. These are human beings. There are zones. One of the problems we have, because of this absolute power that corrupts absolutely, they're giving to most of our governors. There are some governors, when you're coming to do something in their state and you're not in their party, they won't give you the platform. They won't allow you, they send the police against you. These are things that they need to be categorically stipulated. That don't do this, right? So there are zones, there are all local governments. Go to these people, find out those. When people are picking their PVC, do you know that within 3 weeks, over 3 million people have gone for PVC? Should I tell you what's going to happen again? PVC will finish. They'll tell you, there's none again. We're sorry. We're trying to get it by next week. You know why? That is how the Nigerian government or the Nigerian structure discourages people from ever moving forward. Or those who register will never see the PVC till election.
Quick question. This can be a yes or no. Do you think vote counts in Nigeria?
It will count. But it doesn't, it has never counted twice.
At the moment, do you think votes count in Nigeria?
I don't think it counts that much, but it can count. I believe it can count. You know why?
So that means it doesn't count.
It doesn't really count.
So that means at this moment, getting a PVC doesn't mean.
No, we have to change it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I was with some people on YouTube the last time, right? Anything that doesn't work, find a way to make it work.
Okay.
These guys will rig you. You know why? They create a non-existent 12 million votes and give it to APC through Buhari. Oh, you know, Buhari always has 12 million votes. Are you kidding me? I say, oh, anybody that comes to APC automatically has taken Buhari's 12 million. Are you kidding me, for goodness sake? So however you look at it, however you contribute, they already give 12 million to themselves and then get the rest.
So where did they get the 12 million?
For whatever structure they do. So there is a video going on now, right? Someone in the north, this is the problem. And we don't say this thing because we want it to sound like, oh, we don't want to hurt anybody, or we don't want to create chaos. No, we're not creating any chaos. We want to correct a societal issue. Someone on a video about those who did the local government or senator or something was counted 1, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 25, 26, 27, 52, 53, 200, like that. So we don't have people that count numbers, and they are counting these things in their numbers. Not that people are even going to do something and put their name. They are counting, and when they count, they don't register. So the problem starts from that grassroots. Now let me tell you how you're going to do it. When I wanted PDP to win last election, when Atiku came out with the right, and we tried as much as possible. We all were supporting. You know how Nigerian people do something. We are supporting Sowore at least from the youth perspective, right? But for PDP to win, PDP had the money. Atiku had the money. Someone that shared almost how many $1,000s to delegates, right? You guys have this money. Wike, the same thing. You guys can get how much were they saying that Wike shared or whoever shared? Some of these guys are governors in their state, so they use government resources to do this. Why don't you look out for those joints, those centers, those agencies, put them down. Take those monies, hand it over to these agencies or these agents. Let them stay with you and count the votes and copy and snap and take their own results in all polling booths in Nigeria. Since you have the money, why take 100 million, 200 million and go and give it to one godfather and say, I want you to support me for president? And the guy said, okay, no problem, thank you. I've endorsed you. The person endorsed you, he just with one vote. And then you will not go and look for who want to give $100,000. Take that money, spread it in those election centers, and make sure that you pay the agents who will sit down from the time of election to the end to get you the result. When the people come out massively, the military will have no say. There will be no intimidation.
So you pay the agencies so they can make sure they do their job. Doesn't that also look like buying them over as well?
Because they are part of your election. No. Okay, have you asked yourself what is structure? This nonsense structure you talk about. Oh, Labour Party doesn't have the political structure to win election. Have you asked what it is? The problem is, it is nothing but people. And a place, and a people. Right?
Okay.
How many people make up an agency that can stay in a structure? How many do we have in Nigeria? How many do you need? How many people? Oh, I remember Reginald was describing it the last time. And he said the truth. This is what it will cost to run an election in Nigeria. He's not saying it because he wants to intimidate you. He's telling you the facts. You have to have this kind of amount. But now, you are the one that will tell yourself, okay, if you need 200 billion, oh, we don't have it, or what do we do? The guy is bringing out facts. Now it's there for you to find a way around that fact. Now what he's saying is, since you know these facts, why do PDP still stay there? APC will lead the election, at least since APC took over power, right? Those guys, you are an agent of PDP. Remember, most of the agents they are party members, right? Card carrying members, right? So they tell you you're going to be an agent in Ward 2. You will give you guys. You'll be paid for that day's job. It's just a day job, kind of, right? Or we'll give you guys 50,000 naira. You will stay there, you know. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we'll do that 50,000 naira for everybody in the. But the truth is, they have the money. Do not give it to all these identified godfathers. You give one person 200 million just to endorse you, and they see you go to his palace or come out to him and take pictures and say, oh, this man endorsed him. In as much as they work from the perspective that once this person who are prominent endorse this person, it means the people will come to the people. That's what we want to change. Do you understand? Because they have been endorsing and endorsing. Electricity has not been stable. Good road.
Now, I want to ask you this penultimate question. If you wake up tomorrow morning and discover that you are the next person, what will you do first?
Okay, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm the next person of the day, the first thing I will walk towards is what does it take? I will go to wherever structured country has ever, by money, by idea, establish the best means of electricity. Okay, I will go there, got the idea, come down. The next 100 years, that particular structure will be implemented.
So how do you implement it? Because you're going to be in power for max for 8 years. You're going to be in power for 8 years and then you're out. So how do you implement it so that the next person that comes can come?
There are certain things once you do them, which is why I have a problem with PDP. There are certain things once you do them, someone coming up cannot just wake up and start destroying them. Do you understand? There are certain things you can't destroy. They are called social basic amenities. They can't be removed. We don't have basic amenities, right? Those basic amenities had been from the time of Tafawa Balewa, who had the idea to think about electricity and carrying it down as far back as 1964. If that man can think about that at that time, what makes you think that what made his predecessors not to continue? Because we went into the military, who never cared about anything. We went into Babangida, we went into Abacha and all those kind of things, right? If we are following the structure, there are certain things you can't wake up and destroy. And the people wouldn't even need you to do anything for them because those things are already put in. I don't know who the governor of Maryland is. I don't need to see Larry Hogan in this Maryland. I don't need him. He's doing his job, I'm doing mine. He's the governor, but I've never seen him before. I've never had a wow anywhere because he knows as a governor there are certain things he needs to do. We are in Virginia. Have you ever seen Young King, the governor of Virginia? Have you? No. But he's the governor. You don't need to know where he lives. You don't care about it. He needs to do his job. If he does his job and it affects you electricity, you will not know him about it. The biggest problem we have is that we identify our problem with those who are leading us. You don't even need to know who your governor is. If you don't know him, it doesn't matter. So if I become a president, I don't want my name in my pictures anywhere in your offices. Or if you come into a bank, you see the president, you see the governor, all this nonsense. I want you to put the best, like Costco used to do those days when I was to go. The best staff that have worked this month, the best hard-working person, all those kind of, let them come in and see that and get motivated to do their job. I don't need my pictures in a way. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I will put in electricity. I keep saying is the only and the first thing Nigeria needs. When you have light, you have sense. It affects everything. Even affect road they are doing because by night they are done. They don't even have light to continue. I'm feeling it. Can't you see yourself coming back at midnight and you see there are people walking? You see how Virginia Road is, right? They walk 24 hours. So once I can do electricity, you know the next. Electricity will stop, say, insecurity. It is going to do a lot. So then I will concentrate on road. These two things, well-structured road, electricity, people will start creating companies.